Tonight's story, Hans and the Path of Good Fortune, is a soothing adaptation of the classic fairy tale Hans in Luck by the Brothers Grimm. Chosen for its sweet and uplifting journey, this tale has been lovingly reimagined to help you drift into a deep and peaceful sleep. Settle in. Allow yourself to relax completely. And let Hans's journey softly guide you into a deep and restful sleep. As you settle in, finding a position that feels supportive and comfortable, let me take you to a quiet countryside where the hills roll gently and the air carries the scent of wildflowers. It's there that we meet Hans, a kind-hearted soul known for his cheerful and optimistic nature. Hans was coming to the end of his 7 years in service to a kind and generous farmer. During his time on the farm, nestled amid a rolling countryside, Hans has tended to the fields and the animals with unwavering joy and diligence. When the time came for Hans to return to his childhood home, the farmer, who was grateful for Hans's skillful stewardship over the land and animals, presented him with a giant, glimmering lump of silver, nearly as big as Hans's head. It was cool and smooth, gleaming brightly in the morning light. Hans carefully wrapped the silver in a soft cloth and slung it over his shoulder, setting off down the winding road that led to his childhood home. The warm sun bathed the path in golden light, and Hans hummed a cheerful tune as he walked, happy to be traveling back home to the supportive love of his family, whom he had missed dearly during his time with the kind farmer. But as morning wore on, the weight of the silver tugged more and more at Hans's back, making each step feel heavier. Hans shifted the bundle on his shoulder again, but the relief was brief. His steps slowed as the weight pressed into him, making his journey seem endless. He shifted the bundle on his shoulder once more, his steps slowing as the weight pressed into him. Just as he paused to catch his breath, a soft, rhythmic clop of hooves reached his ears, drawing his gaze up the road. A sleek and graceful horse appeared, its rider trotting with effortless ease. Hans paused, watching. Quiet admiration grew as the rider approached. What joy it must be to ride so freely, he mused out loud, his voice carried to the rider along the breeze. The rider, overhearing this, glanced back and noticed Hans trudging under his heavy load. With a small tug on the reins, the horse came to a gentle stop, and they waited for Hans to catch up. As he approached, Hans, always the good-natured soul, offered a warm greeting. The rider smiled kindly and gestured to the heavy bundle Hans carried. "You seem burdened, friend. Why not trade that burden for the ease of riding?" Hans glanced at the horse, its sleek coat glinting in the sunlight, then felt the bundle of silver pulling down on his shoulders. The thought of traveling unburdened was tempting, though he hesitated to part with his hard-earned payment. "That's a kind offer," Hans replied, "but I must warn you, it's no small load to carry." The rider laughed sweetly. "I'm sure I'll manage. Let's trade." With that, the rider dismounted and handed the reins to Hans, who gladly passed over the bundle of silver. The rider secured the silver and helped Hans onto the horse before waving goodbye. Hans settled onto the horse's back and urged it forward. The gentle sway of its steps felt strange at first, but soon a sense of ease washed over him, the weight of the silver completely forgotten. But as the path grew uneven and the horse began to gallop faster than Hans could manage, with a surprised gasp, Hans slipped from the horse. Luckily, he landed in a patch of soft, sweet-smelling grass and was unhurt. Hans sighed, feeling a pang of defeat. The horse, now pacing restlessly nearby, was clearly too spirited for him to manage. As he looked around, his eyes landed on a sturdy cow grazing peacefully nearby. Its calm demeanor a striking contrast to the horse's spirited energy. A shepherd standing beside the cow noticed Hans's struggle and approached with a kind smile, offering him a hand and helped him to his feet. "This horse is too spirited for me," Hans admitted, brushing bits of grass from his clothing and hair. "Your cow is so calm and steady. She seems far better suited to my journey." The shepherd chuckled and agreed, both to the horse's high spirit and to the trade. Hans approached the cow. Her coat was rough but warm beneath Hans's hand, and her gentle lowing drifted softly across the golden fields. With a grateful heart, Hans led the cow along the path, dreaming of fresh milk and creamy butter. As the midday sun blazed overhead, Hans became thirstier and thirstier. Seeing no water or stream in sight, he finally decided to quench his thirst with fresh milk from the cow. Stopping, he led the cow off the path. Kneeling down, he tried to milk her, but not a single drop emerged. The cow shifted her weight uneasily as Hans knelt beside her, her tail flicking as if with irritation. Still, he tried his best to milk her, only to find her udder dry. Before Hans could fret, a butcher wheeling a plump pig stopped to offer help. Hans told the butcher that he had traded the cow for a magnificent horse, but just realized that she had no milk. "The cow has seen her best days," the butcher said kindly, "but this pig will bring you great delight." Hans, always ready for a happy change, agreed to exchange his cow for the butcher's pig. With the pig trotting cheerfully beside him, Hans's spirits lifted. At the next village, he saw a farmer carrying a white goose, its feathers glistening like fresh snow. Hans paused to admire the bird and offer the farmer a friendly hello. "What a splendid creature," Hans remarked. The farmer's gaze looked at Hans, then shifted, lingering on the pig, then looking deep in thought. "You might want to be careful with that pig," the farmer said gently. "There's been talk of one stolen from the squire's pen nearby. Someone might mistake it for theirs." Hans hesitated, the joy of his earlier trade now dampened by the farmer's warning. "I wouldn't want any trouble," Hans admitted, glancing uneasily at the pig. The farmer nodded sympathetically. "Tell you what, I'll trade you this fine goose for that pig. That way, you'll have nothing to worry about, and the goose will make a wonderful gift for your family." Relieved at the offer, Hans handed over the pig in exchange for the goose. As he held the bird close, its soft feathers brushing against his hands, he imagined the joy it would bring, pillows stuffed with new down, and a delicious meal shared with his loved ones. As the afternoon stretched into evening, Hans heard a rhythmic hum rising over the gentle rustle of grasses swaying in the breeze. Following the sound, he spotted a cheerful grinder working by the roadside, singing and turning a stone. Drawn by the lively tune, Hans paused to watch, intrigued by the smooth and steady motion of the grindstone. "Your treat seems joyful," Hans remarked wistfully. Seeing Hans's delight, the grinder held the stone up with pride and promised that the grindstone could also bring Hans endless fortune. Charmed by the idea, Hans imagined the ease of sharpening tools and the possibility of earning his keep wherever he went. With a smile, Hans agreed to trade his goose and carefully hefted the grindstone onto his shoulder. The grinder waved him off cheerfully, and Hans set out again, adjusting to the steady weight of his new burden. Hans slowed his pace as he neared a babbling stream. The sound of water beckoned him to pause and quench his thirst. He set the stone down on the riverbank with care. He paused to sip cool water and let the peaceful surroundings soothe his tired limbs. Leaning down, he scooped clear water into his hands, drinking deeply. The stream's gentle murmur lulled him into a peaceful sense of calm. As Hans drank, his elbow nudged the grindstone. It rolled quietly to the edge of the bank, paused for a fleeting moment, and then tumbled into the stream with a soft plop. Hans watched the stone sink beneath the rippling surface, the weight lifting not only from his shoulder, but also from his spirit. And then a wave of relief swept over him, as cool and refreshing as the stream itself. Hans stretched his arms wide and let the soft breeze brush against his face. With a light heart, he gazed at the rippling water, feeling truly free for the first time. "How lucky I am," Hans whispered, "to be free of every burden." Hans walked onward with a spring in his step and a heart unburdened by possessions. The path ahead seemed brighter, the air sweeter, and the world around him felt alive with quiet promise. Each step reminded him of the joy he had discovered in simplicity. By the time he reached his parents' cottage, the first stars had emerged, twinkling softly against the velvety indigo sky. The warm scent of freshly baked bread drifted through the air, mingling with the gentle glow of firelight spilling from the windows. The cottage seemed to wrap itself around him, a cocoon of familiarity and peace. His family welcomed him with open arms, their smiles as warm as the hearth inside. As they sat together in the soft glow of the fire, Hans shared his tale. For every trade and mishap, his family members listened with quiet delight, nodding, each of them seeing not the loss of silver or goods, but the joy and lightness Hans carried in his heart. And this brought joy to their hearts too. And so, as the night embraced the quiet countryside and the moon cast its gentle light over the cottage, Hans slept peacefully. The soft crackle of the hearth kept him cozy and warm, while his dreams carried him through tranquil meadows and babbling streams, through moments of kindness and light-hearted laughter. A cool night breeze whispered through the window, carrying with it the promise of new journeys to come. Good night, dear dreamer. May your slumber be as gentle as the moon's glow, and may your dreams carry you to places as joyful and unburdened as Hans's